Do not adjust your TV sets. Do not run away in fear because YTV is back. And it's the I don't know, what am I doing? Here's the intro.
Did you grow up in Canada? Were you alive in the 90s? Did you love YTV? Yeah, you did.
Greetings and welcome to You, Me, and YTV. My goodness, in a brand new location. What looks shockingly similar to the old location, but let me assure you, ladies and gentlemen, that is all smoke and mirrors. The long and treacherous journey from one broadcasting room to another has been that of peril. But your heroes, Ryan, has overcome this. Powered by the Christmas spirit, I was visited by three ghosts and no longer am a cranky bastard. But today I am joined by my good pal of one of my favorite podcasts ever, High School Slumber Party. Welcome, Brian Rodriguez. How you doing? Or should I say Brian the Guest Rodriguez?
Ooh, I like that. Ryan, thank you so much for having me on this show, which is very foreign to me, and I can't wait to talk about it.
There you go, literally foreign because you're from America, as a Team America people say, America, fuck yeah, and I exposed you to Canadian teen comedy drama. So I gave you some homework, and what I love, everybody, right before we begin this, just a little bit of backstory. On my other show, the Ryan Stick Show, I had on this guy named Charlie Talbert, who was and Patrick Reed Johnson, who were the director and the star of Angus. And Charlie Talbert brought up all the time this high school slumber party podcast, talking about how great Brian is. And I'm like, I got to check this out. And then I went on this deep dive. Hey, Bernadette, subscribe to High School Slumber Party on your podcast app immediately. Immediately. You will not regret it. Brian here. Oh my God, the list of stuff, besides reviewing Angus, you've reviewed everything from great to classic to not so classic to hilariously bad and so bad it turns around to be good again. Brian's podcast is a celebration of the high school experience, whether it's a brand new movie or an old movie or before his time. As long as it's high school centric and as long as it's a movie, you cover it. And I fell in love with the show. And so far, I had the pristine honor of being a guest on your show a few times. And we've always talked about some horror movies that our buddy Matt Kelly wishes he would have been the guest of. But by the way, everybody, check out the Geepscape Network on YouTube. Shout out to Matt Kelly. And of course, One Hit Thunder and Christmas 365 that's killing it right now.
That guy is killing it. Oh my God.
That guy's a busy guy.
100%.
Fuck. But anyway, here we are talking about high school centric Canadian shows, which across the pond wasn't on your TV set every day like it was for us. So I got to ask you a question. Which episode would you like to talk about first? Because I'm sure the audience has a lot to say.
I've dabbled into this show, your show now, Ryan, because I was curious about it because again, if you listen to my podcast, I go down some rabbit holes. Like no one has talked more Corey Haim and Corey Feldman movies than me. I can guarantee you. So I was curious about this YTV thing. And I was just going to ask, like, now that I've watched some episodes, and I know this is not for your audience, this is selfishly just for me. Okay. Can you just 30-second me what YTV really was and like what it meant to you and stuff?
YTV was an all children's television station just for younger viewers.
And so quickly, it was on 24/7 or just at certain time?
Okay, 24/7 had its own channel. And here's the thing, they had to fill it up with something. So 24 hours a day they were playing content, but here's the thing, like there wasn't a zillion cartoons out there. So they reached out and they started playing anime in North America before anybody else did. And we were dubbing anime in Vancouver. So that's a large part of it. YTV brought a lot. Fox Kids would later emulate a lot what YTV would do. We had puppets in between segments and live hosts. And I'm saying I'm not part of YTV. I'm a fan, but it was this incredible experience to grow up in Canada and watch this show. And two of the episodes we're talking about today, which is the Christmas episodes of Student Bodies and Radioactive. Those two shows were on right before I went to high school. So it was that fantasy, over-the-top, goofy, sometimes dramatic version of high school that I cautiously watched as I anticipated my own high school experience. And what's really funny is that, my darling of 12 years was on one of those shows, But Radioactive, I watched Student Bodies religiously, but Radioactive came right as I was too old for it, because that was the sillier version of high school, the fun version of high school, the loose version. I'm like, by the time Radioactive came really popular, I wanted to see my teens pregnant and on drugs.
Now, okay, so that was going to be my next question. So 2 shows we're talking about today, right? Radioactive and Student Bodies. What was one of them a hit? Was one of them less known? Like, what was the popularity and the stay power of each of them?
Student Body got very popular. It got very popular with older viewers. So I believe what you saw was the first season, where things were still very over the top. But Student Bodies in the later seasons would get a little bit more dramatic, and they'd touch on more serious issues, because they kept getting fan mail from adults and people in prison. So,
really?
They had a large Victoria Sanchez, my buddy who plays Grace, the clumsy character. She still gets a lot of fan mail from prison. So yeah,
that is so fascinating. Wow.
Yeah. Everybody right here, they're going crazy. They're just saying like, "Oh my God, talk about this," and it's true, because Breaker High was Ryan Gosling's breakout role. Like, yeah. There's been so many Canadian television shows where these Canadian stars would start out in, and it's really fascinating to see them kind of get their feet wet in the entertainment business. I'm sure you've heard of Are You Afraid of the Dark, but that was all shot in Montreal, my hometown. So a lot of stars, including Ryan Reynolds, was in a show called The Odyssey. It's crazy. But Student Bodies, I personally really liked this particular holiday episode, but it's still in that whole, everything is really big. They're trying to throw the fundraiser. They're trying to get Robert Goulet. Like, it's big and nuts. But at the same time, I'm like, it's near and dear to my heart, because a lot of the cast members, after starting this particular show, have become kind of friends. Me and Jamie Ellman talk often. We work together a lot on his YouTube series Yid-Life Crisis. So yeah, so it was a hit, and YTV went all across Canada, millions of viewers. And I believe, Student Bodies was the bigger of the 2 shows, had a bigger budget, but Radioactive was there too, and Breaker High and Big Wolf on Campus. There was a whole wave of teen shows in Canada that was heavily embraced by all the people chatting in the chat right now.
I feel like I missed out on this. Like, it's really depressing to me, because so growing up, it was mostly cartoons on all like the kid-oriented channels, right?
Yeah,
we had a little splice of this. I mean, obviously, everyone knows Saved by the Bell, and it was part of this thing called TNBC, and they used to try to do these live action shows.
Yeah,
I liked them.
Mm-hmm.
Look, obviously, I do a high school centric podcast, right? Like, I wish there was more of these for me to talk about that weren't so much person getting pregnant here and there, right? Like, this feels fun. I know for younger generations than myself, like Nickelodeon started doing a lot more live action stuff, like the iCarly stuff. But by the time I could watch that, it was completely unbearable to me,
Yeah. And it's also a little strange if you're watching it and you're like, 30 years old or something.
Exactly, So this was really cool. It was like looking back at a Canadian childhood that I did not have.
I love that.
But it was really awesome. It reminded me of just both shows, right? Like stuff like Ghost Rider that we got here, and
love Ghost Rider.
There was a show we had called City Guys.
I saw City Guys.
Okay, there
City
you go.
Guys. City Guys. You see, I love very similar to here when I'm talking about Breaker High, Student Bodies, and Radioactive. You have the wave on Saturday mornings with like Saved by the Bell, The New Class, City Guys, Hang Time.
Yeah,
like, I watched all those shows. I would get up for those shows for sure.
Yeah, but those were the only ones. Like,
I know
it's depressing, but I'm happy you invited me into your world a little bit. So this is cool. I don't know if I guess we could talk Student Bodies first, because I have a favorite character.
Okay, who's your favorite character?
Flash. I'm big.
Oh my God, me too. Yeah. I've told Jessica Goldapple, the actress, on this many times. Like, I had the biggest crush on Flash, because out of all the girls, she just seemed to be like the most sure of herself. Just 100%. She walked in a room, she was a presence. Yeah.
Like, of course, a lot of these characters are like stock and they're supposed to be, right? Like, that's the point. But Flash, like anything she said, even today, like I was super intrigued. I'm like, can I go down this rabbit hole? Because, and I don't mean this in a negative way at all. It felt like she was in a different show, but in like again, like in a good way, right? Like she was. How can I put it? Like,
that's fascinating.
Oh, that's my dog. Sorry, I knew he was going to bark. He looked like
the dog likes Flash too,
and that's the other dog.
Aw, it's okay. I'm a big fan of dogs. I lost my dog in August, and the sound of a dog barking is like the sound of children's laughter to me.
Well, I'm glad. Yeah, apologies for your loss once again, and I'm glad.
Oh, thanks, man.
Because right now
I appreciate it. Ocean Dub in Calgary, yeah, I know Ian James Corlett was based, sorry, just to acknowledging some of the comments, Ian James Corlett was based out of BC, and he was one of the first his company was one of the first companies to dub things, and he was the voice of adult Goku in Dragon Ball Z, and he was also worked on Dragon Ball, the original Dragon Ball, and he was the voice of Cheetor on Beast Wars, and it goes on and on and on and on.
Wow.
Yeah, but let's talk about the high school stuff. So yeah, YTV got this block with high school shows and student body. That's really cool. I love hearing your fresh perspective of student bodies because I take it for granted that everybody in Canada has seen that show.
Yeah, I mean, again, I have zero awareness of the show except for this episode. So if this episode's a little different than the others, I apologize for my take, right?
What? No, please be honest. That's the whole point. Is that you're a grown man who's seen every high school movie under the sun, examining what all of us saw, early millennium, or late 90s. Yeah.
Well, I guess, that puts me in a better position than a lot of people my age dipping into the show for the first time,
Yeah.
The first thing that struck me about it is the interesting animated sequences, right? Like, and this is something that would continue throughout, or it's just, I don't know, because sometimes I feel like these things get abandoned in later seasons of stuff.
No, it was totally there the entire time. It was a real stylized version of the show. However, I got to say, the intro with that song "Student Bodies" that only lasted one season, and then the second season they kind of aged it up and had a kind of mock Friends title, like "Wake up on the radio, 8 o'clock, it's time to go," and it's funny because everybody remembers the show. They remember that first theme song. So it's a necessary change to kind of adapt to the viewership, but at the same time, timeless is timeless. So, you can't change the theme song once you've changed it. You can't change it 3 episodes later and call the episode "Oops." Like, you gotta lean into it.
That was in my notes. That theme song, just like the distinct I liked it, but it almost felt like something the creator would record himself. And then yeah, let's just keep it. Like, that's good. Like, and again, I don't mean that in a negative way because I can't get it out of my head.
Absolutely. But here's the thing too. It's that we are so spoiled by digital video now. Like, shows look kind of like amazing. Like all these new shows, even like Girl Meets World or whatever, all these younger, like newer shows about that even kind of reference older things. All these shows look pristine. But back in the day, especially in the 90s with modest Canadian budgets, like there is always a little bit of an edge to these productions, a little bit of a fuzz. There's not a million lights. They shot in a real high school. That's not a set. That's a real high school. Awesome. It was actually, yeah, I used to live pretty close to it. I've been meaning to kind of go in front of it and just be like, this is Edison High. But yeah, the animated sequence stayed there the whole time. And it's, I don't know, fascinating show, and it's cool that they got to have a Christmas episode. If I was ever an actor, I would love to be in a Christmas episode. I'd love to be in a Christmas anything.
Why don't more shows have Christmas episodes? Because we're, I'm going to answer my question because we're in such a time now where like, not that you can't do that, but everyone has to have a different kind of edge. Like you can't have cool nostalgic Christmas episodes. But, I digress. About the edge you were talking about, though. I
Mm.
really do miss that in TV in general. Not just seeing it here, but also like, sitcoms of 80s, 70s. Like people at home, there's like this misconception that because people at home did not have the technology, that they thought that was the best they can get. No,
Mm.
they knew it wasn't what it looked like in real life. It was okay. They accepted it. It was just entertainment. Now people like want that sharp quality and everything. Like I
Mm.
don't need it. I'm here to be entertained and for the story and I don't know. Again, a little nostalgia buzz from watching TV like this.
And that's another thing. Like I remember seeing that show Freaks and Geeks and falling in love with it. But then later that day, my friends were playing a movie, 10 Things I Hate About You, which very similar to this is high school with hot sauce. Just here's the high school experience, but it's a little surreal. There's a dance number, there's a marching band, all to take one girl to the dance. And I remember just being like, I love 10 Things I Hate About You, but right after watching Freaks and Geeks, had a hard time, falling into that fantasy version of high school. But in Canada, we also had Degrassi Junior High, which was essentially a scared straight program when it comes to what the fuck would happen to their to their students. If they weren't dead, they were overdosing on drugs. They get pregnant. They'd get in car accidents. You should see the last episode, Brian. I want to go on your show and do Degrassi Schools Out. It's a TV movie, so it kind of counts, but it's like literally all these characters you loved. Bad stuff is going to happen to them because that's real life.
Oh, we definitely have to cover that. Then we definitely
Yeah.
have to. And amongst the silliness, especially in this episode, like I didn't feel, and that's what I loved about this era of TV in general, not just teen TV, right? Like you can pop in an episode and pretty much be caught up on everything that was going on. You're not like a, HBO level stuff like wait, what the hell happened? Who's that? Like it doesn't I don't mean it doesn't matter, but like you could tell which couples were had chemistry, who had feuds with who within the first 5 minutes, and I love that.
Yeah. Well, that's the best thing about the theme song too. Back in the day, that's what theme songs you usually like. I think the Jeffersons were moving on up to the east side. It's kind of telling you the show. We used to live here. Now we live here. Deal with it. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That is the most. This is what this show is about. And this is about how my life turned upside down. Like the theme song used to be, "Hey, new person, have you ever heard of the show before? Doesn't matter. This is what the show's about," which makes me want to write a theme song about my life.
And that's why I rabbit hole time, but like I still love sitcoms and I love just old TV. And people today who binge it don't understand the clip show. Right? Because it's like, I just watched all those episodes. Why do I need to see this? Or even if you watched it a week before, it makes no sense. But clip shows used to be the highest rated shows of a season because all the people who missed that early season stuff would be like, oh, that's what my friend was talking about. So like that's a lost art. And I'm fascinated with it. We're just fascinated with the idea of people getting in a room and writing something and knowing they have to write something that has to be familiar to the new person as well as the longtime viewer, or the viewer in this case of like a couple episodes, right? Like, I love the art of it. So, dipping into this was right up my wheelhouse.
Oh, that's really cool, man. I'm really glad you had some fun with it, and that's really what it was. Like high school can be fun, and like I said, in later seasons, it would get a little more serious. People would cheat on each other, like they'd throw some drama into it. But I remember Jamie, Jamie and of course Jamie Ellman, who plays Cody, in a very early interview I did with him, he had mentioned that there was a part in season 1, an episode called The Goop, where they were in science class making this slime that could potentially make your skin better. It's an amazing product. And they're like, that's the episode that could have jumped the shark, where the show could have been this goofy at all times, or okay, we did this goofy, but maybe let's pull it back and kind of like, like older teens are watching this. We thought children would watch this, but older teens are watching it. Let's not condescend to them.
That's great. There's always these moments, right? Like in TV shows where they could go, and sometimes they do take that direction, right? But That's awesome to hear. Like I gotta listen back to some of your back catalog.
Yeah, there's this Canadian '90s television world that now you're seeing. It's just there's so many of them too, but it's all good. It's awesome. There's another show called The Adventures of Shirley Holmes about Meredith Henderson, and it was shot in I think Winnipeg actually. I think it was shot in Winnipeg, and it's incredible. It's really cool. It's a really cool show. And in the first episode, a gang starts a fire. Like shit gets real. Sometimes Canada. That was the Canadian thing. We're don't start fires.
I
Mm.
question to ask you, right? Like because again, different world here. You said Student Bodies was shot in Montreal.
Yeah.
No French language component here?
Well, they've told me that there wasn't a live studio audience. All that's a laugh track. So they would kind of record it, and they didn't know if it was funny or not because the crew is all French and wouldn't laugh at anything. So they just tried to entertain themselves. They try to make each other laugh.
That's so
And
fascinating.
Mick Perlis, who plays Victor Crane, he's like my other favorite character. There's this great arc in season 2 where instead of being the cartoon villains in the other paper trying to take them down, the friends would all merge and become friends. And him becoming part of like my favorite thing is when enemies become friends. Like that's my favorite thing in the world. And I thought Mick Perlis handled that beautifully, and they did great things for the character. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us right now, this is the clip show version of You, Me, and YTV, where we're going to paraphrase the last 20 minutes. No, I'm kidding. Basically, everybody out there right now, if you have your phone right here, and my phone's blowing up with a bunch of You, Me, and YTV stuff, thank you for liking the episode, guys. Make sure you go to your podcast app, subscribe to High School Slumber Party, in which Brian is the esteemed host of. And Brian, I love the format of your show. I love how you say, you hear the bell and you're like, hey, the bell doesn't dismiss you. I dismiss you. And did anyone do their homework? Did they watch the movie? Like, I love, I know you've been doing this for years, but how, tell the audience quickly, how exactly did High School Slumber Party start up?
That's a good question. It has been years. It's funny because like there's over 300 episodes, but I haven't done some of the big classic movies yet. Again, I go down to through too many rabbit holes. But I remember sitting like, hey, I had done a couple other podcasts, and I'm like, I really want to do a podcast about movies I love. And I'm trying to think of my favorite movies, and a lot of them were like teen films, high school films. And I'm like, I could do that. I could talk about that. And believe it or not, when I started, there weren't a lot of podcasts about that subject matter, and I just wanted to have fun. Ryan, you put in the work for these things. When you're not having fun doing it, it's really, really hard to do, So I don't know. One thing led to another, and I, never stopped. Some weeks and years I've gotten a little slower, but we're kind of starting to ramp up again. I've been prepping for some, I think exciting news, and we're going to kind of reboot a little, but there's going to be a lot of that High School Slumber Party charm. And the biggest mistake I made, if you want me to be honest,
Sure.
I was like, hey, there's probably 100 teen films, maybe 200, and I'll be done, by like episode 150. I'll be like covering, maybe covering movies again. And no, 300 plus episodes. I'm not even close to completing it. And every year now, I try to watch. And now I've brought some other people in because it's a very daunting task, but I try to watch every new teen film of the year. And I started that like 2 years ago. And I swear, Ryan, I thought I'd only watch like 5 films, I think there's 50 something teen films that came out this year. I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's a lot of movies, regardless.
It's a genre that's never died down. It's just in the late 90s, I find that even adults knew what was up. Like, my mom and dad knew She's All That was coming out. Like, but it's also because of television and commercials. And now, I mean, it's an algorithm. Like, why wouldn't my dad see what teen film came out? But if he was, he was watching NBC at 8:00, and they paid for the advertising time, there it is.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the. We had a golden age in the 80s. We had a golden age in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Mhm.
And it's not
Yeah.
necessarily like the films were better; they were just more known. And that happens from time to time. Like I had my youngest brother on. He was born in '94, and he was like, Brian, almost no teen movies were like popular when I was going to school. We had Project X, and that's
Yeah.
it. And it was weird because for me, it was every month there were teen films like that, right? But again, it doesn't necessarily mean that they weren't coming out. It's just like sometimes, like a couple years ago, we had this as well. Things gravitate more to like the indie genre of teen
Yeah.
films. But
Hmm.
look, we all experience it. That's another reason why I do this show. We all experience our teenage years. They are interesting. They can be awful. They can
Yeah.
be really fun. But I feel like every artist and every filmmaker, whether they tell that story or not, has a story to tell from that era. So it's a never-ending genre. And much to my wife's chagrin, I'm probably going to be doing this in one form or another forever.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on to the other homework assignment I gave you. Radioactive doesn't have as much money as Student Bodies, and even Melissa, who, we're going to actually do probably either a watch, a commentary, or so. I'm going to reach out to some of those Radioactive actors. Melissa, like, it's like it can't just be me. So we're gonna ask them about their experiences on set. But I'm gonna say, you saw Radioactive. It's called A Christmas Atoll, named after the teacher that gives them a lengthy assignment. You'll notice that there's like 5 students in this whole school because that show cost a lot less. But it's there's something truly endearing about it. It's the sillier side of high school. But may I just say that a lot of people I know that are about 3 to 5 years younger than me, which is not that big of a deal once you get into your 30s. Once you're a teenager, if you're hanging out with someone 5 years younger than you, it's like, dude, they're 10, you're 15. Like that's a world of difference.
Very true.
But when you're like when you're in your 30s, whatever, some friends of mine that were in bands, like a whole bunch of cool people. They told me that they watch Radioactive religiously. But to me, who was like 14, 15, I'm like I said, I like my teens to have angst and get pregnant and have so it was really cool to hear their perspectives of the show. And when I would revisit it, I'm like, it's kind of like a vaudeville show. Like everybody, or a 1940s live theater play where everyone's talking really fast and the energy level is like cranked to 11. So it's a different teen experience, but definitely, like we were talking about, how so many shows all have their place in high school, especially the fantasized version of high school. It's that show made a lot of people happy, so it was cool. I was wondering what your opinion of it was.
Well, I was curious because this is the only episode I'd seen. Sometimes Christmas specials will ratchet it up to 11, so I wasn't sure. But you're telling me this was it was always that kind of style, Radioactive.
Yeah.
They didn't get much into the radio station in this episode, but I did look it up, and I thought it was funny how Student Bodies is like, we run a newspaper, and Radioactive is like, we run a radio station. Both very cool.
Very good.
I thought Melissa was great, so you can give her my regards on that. I thought that was a pretty cool character. There was, who else was in that?
Oh, Andrew Walker, who's in like every Hallmark movie ever. He's in like he's in 4 Christmas movies a year, like Andrew Walker. And this in my opinion, this was kind of his episode. Like he was really leading the way. It was his idea to kind of pretend they were the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future to their teacher, Miss Atoll. And it's interesting to see. I think that was like one of his first acting jobs ever. And he went on to Sabrina the Teenage Witch. He was in so many things, but I'll start somewhere.
I liked I like any adaptation of A Christmas Carol. I don't care, right? Like just if the aliens come down and they ask us for like, what are your 50 universal stories that could be told over and over and over again that no one will get tired of? For me, A Christmas Carol is up there. So when you see, their take on it, I thought it was pretty. I thought it was pretty fun. It was interesting how both Christmas episodes had like authority figures who were kind of ruining the spirit of Christmas, but
Yeah.
I do love students versus teacher things. I think that's fun. I love the interplay between the gang here. It was silly. Each of them seemed to have their role, their part, like not just in the show, obviously, but in the fabric of the culture there, that it did get me intrigued to watch more. Was it pretty silly at times? Yes. Yes, it was. But, it was fun. I was entertained.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like, here is a high school show for kids that aren't in high school yet. Here's an optimistic take on the possible darker experience they're going to have in high school. Here's like keeping the fires warm, to be like, hey, it's not all that bad. Here's the fun you can have with your friends. And that's something that I didn't get, because I was Giancarlo, who plays, and this was mentioned in the chat, Giancarlo, who plays George, who has the spiky blonde hair, who's the especially silly one. He would go on to a show called Fries with That, another teen-based show, except they work in a restaurant. And he that guy's hilarious. He is so funny in person. He laughs like the Riddler. Like, he's got like the most cartoonish, crazy high laugh. It's infectious, and you feel better just by hearing it. And you feel honored if you're the one who made that sound possible. But yeah, man, Radioactive, it's something that when I was a kid, I had spiky blonde hair, and I'm like, hey, we're not stupid. Hey, let's go push that thing over. So it's funny. Like, I didn't like seeing myself in such a silly prism, and now I'm just like, yeah, I was a freaking idiot when I was 15. This is dead on.
I think you made a really great point, Ryan, when you said that, like, this was definitely a show for younger people who were not quite in high school. We see that a lot in teen films in general, like on High School Slumber Party, right? Like, there's teen films that are truly for teens. There's teen films that are for adults. There's plenty of those, right?
Yeah,
A lot of horror films that are teen films that are for adults, right? And then there's this genre that it's a little harder for adults to get into if they have no connection to it. Again, I've done the mileage, so I understand. But it's that genre of teen films for preteens / children. And they often do show like a bright look of high school, a fun look at high school. Now, there are some who are like Scare Straight style, right? But it just, it's not Euphoria. You know what I mean?
No one kills himself in this show, kids.
Yes. And you can imagine when you watch this as a preteen, like, wow, I'm different to that person, but we could still be friends. And then you go to high school, and sometimes it's like that, but sometimes it's very cliquey for some people too. So it's not reality, but it's still, again, fun to watch.
Someone's bringing up the show Prank Patrol. Yeah, I'm familiar with Prank Patrol. My friend Andre was the host of that. He's this tall, handsome. Well, he still is a tall, handsome guy. I just haven't seen him in years. But he was an amazing actor, and the fact he was the host of a show, it's awesome. And Prank Patrol is lucky to have him. So, yeah.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. It's the thing with the Radioactive episode was cool. It's funny. I've been with Melissa 12 years, and I don't watch Radioactive that much, but everyone out there, if you haven't seen it, there's a 3-part reunion that we edited together with clips, and it's a lot of fun. It's on this very page. And but it's been a few years since then. I think that was before pandemic or just at the beginning of it. And then we're watching it, I'm like, you're on TV. And that little connection, I'm just like, she's like, yeah, you know that. I'm like, I know, but it's been a while. I'm like, that's why rock stars get so much attention. I'm so excited. You're on television. Yeah. But it's really cool to see Melissa in her element. Like, I keep telling her, I'm like, please get back into acting, because all this silly crap you do around the house, like, you should be doing it on screen. You should be doing it on screen for the masses. For the masses, I say.
I agree. Again, love
Zoe's from Australia. Zoe, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to High School Slumber Party and tell some folks in Australia all about Brian's podcast here, because Brian covers high school centric films, including all these ones from the 90s, and does a beautiful job. The whole show is a love letter to these movies, and he has great guest hosts, including me and Melissa, when we thank you for having us on, by the way, with Melissa's movie Laserhawk. That was a blast.
That was a really fun episode, Ryan. I can't wait
I
to
mean,
have you on again and the both of you on again together for something.
oh, someone's bringing up. Like, here's something from your side of the pond. Someone's brought up Boy Meets World Christmas episodes were great. Never for Sean though. They always had a
Nope.
hard time at Christmas. But I love Boy Meets World. Love it to death. I listen to Pod Me World all the time. The whole TGIF thing. That's another thing in America. The TGIF teen shows. I love those. They were amazing too.
That's a really good point. And TGIF really started more with like family shows, like Full House, Family Matters. But you're right, it did with Boy Meets World, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, things like that. It started to skew towards teen shows that were sort of similar to this. So I had completely forgotten about that. Loved Boy Meets World, and that was a show that I felt like I grew up with in the realist sense, in terms of like when I was a kid, Corey was like a kid. When I was entering high school, Corey was entering high school. So that's a weird show to go back and watch like linearly though, because you really do see him grow up fast, because kids do grow up fast. But there's so many shows that don't do that, where like a kid's in high school for like 7 years, and those are always hilarious.
Well, and then they aged them up quickly. Like according to Boy Meets World, like high school and junior high are like 4 years or 5 years, because they started in elementary school and then they aged them up to, they were possibly like 10 or 11 in the first season, but then all of a sudden they're in high school and they're freshmen, and Harley Kiner's threatening them and a bunch of other stuff. But it's true though, because I got excited when I saw Corey and Sean go to high school. I got excited because I was like, wow, I'm not in high school yet. What's it going to be like? And they're kind of portraying that there's bullies and other stuff, and I was mesmerized. I couldn't stop watching, and they were getting feelings for girls the same time I was. It was cool. But just to bring up, that's what Student Bodies did as well. Kind of season 1 to season 2, they kind of said, okay, our audience is growing. Let's grow with our audience. So,
Interesting. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. What's everybody saying here? There's so much stuff, Brian. People are liking this. Too much drama. My life didn't have that much drama like that. Just studying and fooling around with my friends. That's true. High school is different for everybody, but it's kind of, I think the dramaticness, all the drama in my high school years, I brought upon myself from a series of self-important thoughts. So I'm like, everyone's going to see my haircut. Everybody's going to see the way I dress. And I'm just like, not really. Not until I started dyeing my hair blonde and, having spiky hair and wearing a bunch of clothes that screamed, notice me. Like I do right now.
I was going to say, love it.
Thank you. Nintendo 64, a vital part of growing up in both Canada and America in the late 90s. Definitely. Nintendo 64 came out and just kicked your brain's ass. I wasn't ready for Nintendo 64 when that came out. When did you start playing that? Were you a Nintendo kid?
My family would famously buy me like the wrong system every time. Like I think I got a Sega Saturn first, things like that.
Okay.
And then I'd always be like 1 or 2 years too late on stuff. NES I had like right away, but that was the only time my family was like correct when it came to here's the Christmas gift, and there was always a correction to be had 6 months later, which is nice. Like I'm not complaining about that. That's nice that they would recognize, hey, they're not making games for this anymore, But yeah, N64 was awesome. PlayStation was awesome. Not much of a gamer these days, but back then I certainly was.
Wrestling was awesome back then. I mean, very similar to the Attitude Era with the Monday Night War between WCW and WWF. Nintendo, PlayStation, and Sega were duking it out, and as a result, all these games were great because they had somebody to answer to.
Speaking of someone to answer to, okay, Henry.
I think your doggy is more of a Sega fan.
Yeah,
and it's sad that they stopped after Sega Saturn. But so I got on a little bit. Well, I will say this about the radioactive. Everybody out there, if you dug the crap out of Radioactive and Student Bodies, let us know some of the moments that you liked in the holiday episodes, and are they part of your usual rotation? Because everybody watches Christmas movies, but I find the Christmas episode is not as common until recently, because the streaming services have now created holiday collections where they'll find those holiday episodes for you. You know, within the holiday episodes, they'll find the Boy Meets World episode. They'll show you all the Simpson Christmas episodes. So that's nice. I think Community's got some of the best Christmas episodes ever.
For
What
sure.
are some American high school centric shows that you find really brought some awesome Christmas episodes?
The only one that's coming to mind right now is the OC. Chris Monica, I believe it was called. Like they
Nice,
did like a
Christmas.
Christmas. Yeah, Christmica. Yeah, that's what it was. I was literally watching that like a week ago. Yeah, that was pretty cool. God, the Boy Meets World thing. I'm going back to all the Sean father drama was. I don't want to say hilarious because it was like really dark, but it always reared its head around Christmas. Let's see. Like sometimes these teen shows, they kind of were like too cool for school when it came to the Christmas special. Like, I'd have to look back. I should have done my research. I apologize, Ryan.
Oh, that's fine. No, I'm just asking you random questions, pulling them out of thin air as I usually do. We're, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go on for about 10 more minutes because Brian's got some more recordings to do. And usually on the Ryan Stick Show, Brian develops Stockholm syndrome by how long I keep him on the air. And yeah. Like I usually keep you on for 2-3 hours, and your poor wife, oh my God, please apologize to her for all the experiences where I'm greedy. I need my Brian fix.
I don't mind. We have fun. We hang out. We always have a good time, Ryan. So I keep you long too.
We do. Oh, that's true. But that's because I won't leave. Someone's bringing this up actually. Pink in the Brain and Hey Arnold episodes are the most emotional. Yeah, those are great episodes.
Yeah, I mean, any Hey Arnold special was a tearjerker, so that's 100% correct.
Oh yeah, it was a Mr. It's a Mr. It's Fong or Wong. I did not watch Hey Arnold.
Wong, yeah.
Wong. Yeah, him talking about his daughter. Oh my God, that was like
Vietnam
that was an amazing
flashbacks.
show.
You're like, what?
Yeah. Oh, crazy. Yeah. Oh, Mighty Morphin at Power Rangers. Rest in peace, Jason David Frank. They had some really nice episodes. Yeah, we've lost some heroes this year, Brian. We lost Batman and the Green Power Ranger in 1 week from each other. Like,
yeah, that's crazy.
If you're on Fox Kids, everybody, please stay safe and be healthy, and
for sure.
Okay, what's this? Oh, yes. Okay, and I don't know if Matt Kelly's ever watching this, but I've been kind of hinting. I'm like, if Christmas 365 and Our Great Podcast, if they ever covered the Justice League episode, the Christmas episode is phenomenal. Like Superman is a big kid, loves Christmas.
Really?
Insists that Santa brought all the presents. It's a beautiful piece of animation, and that's the best thing about the way we grew up. I find like some people they're trying to safen up the stuff. Some kids they can't. I just feel like in Canada they just would throw anything at us, and as a result, whenever something slightly heavy would happen in an American show, we're like, "You think that's bad? On Degrassi, this kid took LSD and jumped off a bridge." And now he has permanent brain damage, and he Spike's baby daddy, and she doesn't know him because he's crazy. I wish I was making this up. I almost sent you as a homework a Degrassi Christmas episode, and we got to cover that sometime. Degrassi is one of the most famous Canadian exports, like Australia and a bunch of other. It's this low budget Canadian teen show from the 80s, and it's just fucking wonderful.
I've thought about like doing a Degrassi run, but there's so much of it that I'm like, to go down this rabbit hole, it would take a while.
Well, before Cobra Kai, I find, and Cobra Kai is awesome, everybody. Before Cobra Kai, Degrassi: The Next Generation was the most successful adaptation to bringing a new cast in while honoring an old cast I have ever seen before. Like, a direct sequel, but at the same time, its own show. I think Cobra Kai owes Degrassi: The Next Generation a ball of Coke or something, because, like, really, it was so well done.
That's awesome.
Oh, Cat Dog Christmas. Yeah, Dexter's Lab. Oh my God. Did you get any of those shows? Dexter's Lab, any of that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That cartoon stuff was really popular when I
Yeah.
was growing up. But like I said, everything we got was not everything, but most of it was cartoons. So
Yeah.
love the live action stuff as well. I don't think it gets enough love.
May I just bring up a special that not a lot of people bring up, but X-Men the Animated Series has, I think it's called A Very Morlock Christmas. And it's awesome. Like one of the Morlocks that live in a sewer is dying, and Wolverine's brought down there, and his healing. It's also a very emotional one, and they're Christmas shopping and throwing snowballs. It's a wonderful episode. X-Men the Animated Series, all Canadian cast, recorded in Toronto.
Nice.
But
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. I thought Canada sucked when I was a kid. I was like, yeah, we don't have anyone cool. All we have is Celine Dion and Bare Naked Ladies. Why can't anything cool be made here? And I didn't realize that all the YTV stuff was homegrown. And a lot of our famous exports, like Beast Wars, was all made here. So I'm like, I did not know that.
Yeah. Something to be proud of, and good for your access today, right?
Yeah. Now I'm very proud to be Canadian. I was pensive when I was a kid. I thought there was like 3 Canadian bands. I was such a fucking idiot.
That's hilarious. Oh man.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing this up. An X-Men Evolution was recorded in Vancouver, and Scotty McNeil was Wolverine, and Scotty McNeil was also was Wolverine, but Scotty McNeil and Ian James Corlett have been in so many things. Scotty McNeil played Rat Trap in Beast Wars. So anyway.
Awesome.
That's what I do with my life, Brian. It's like a tick. I just like something will come up, and I did that at Winnipeg Comic Con. I had a Yumi and YTV live thing, and at first I had a bunch of clips, and the projector wasn't working. So then I just went to who's in the audience. What is a show you liked? And they would say something, and then the Manchurian Candidate part of my brain would just be like, yeah, that show was made in 1996, and it stars this person and stuff. And I had no control over my brain or my body, and just an explosion of excitement just came over me. And all of a sudden, it was 45 minutes later, the panel was over, and I just, I didn't know where I was.
Well, that's what makes you, the perfect host. Especially for this, right? Like,
yeah,
maybe you were, as a baby implanted with something to be
there we go.
The ideal, entertainer when it comes to this kind of stuff.
There's a collection of tapes in my brain.
Yeah.
and I'm one of those multi VCRs that had like 3 tape ones. Oh man. Oh, okay. Reboot had a great reboot. Did you guys get Reboot?
It's just called Reboot? I don't know.
Yeah, Reboot. It's like it's one of the first CGI animated shows ever before Toy Story anything. It's living in when it come down, they would do this Reboot, and they would change into various.
Yeah, so that I've seen it, but like I don't think it really got popular here. I think like they tried and it wasn't successful.
Okay, there you go.
Well, it, though.
We loved it in Canada. So it's really cool that everybody's like, we got all these people in the chat, man. It's so cool. Once again, everybody, before we sign off today, which is going to be in a few minutes, Mel and I are going to do our darnest to resurrect Nesbitt and do some Santa calls before the end of the year. And I want to, on camera, the Drysdale brothers sent us a Christmas card, and I really want to read it when we're on the air, but I want Melissa to be there too because it's from the both of us. So before Christmas, ladies and gentlemen, keep your eyes peeled. We're going to be back. But Brian, I think it's about time we're going off into that good nights. Leave some room for next time because there's tons of Canadian high school content. Come back on and we can talk about it. I love the fresh perspective you provide. And where can people find you on the internet? How can they help High School Slumber Party be the blast that it is?
Well, so I've been thinking a lot about this, Ryan, and your peeps are some of the first to hear this, but since I've gone down too many rabbit holes with High School Slumber Party, we're kind of going to split it up.
Okay.
So the main High School Slumber Party feed, which you can get that wherever you get your podcast, just look up High School Slumber Party. That's sort of my social media anyway. I have my private social medias, but you don't care. That's going to go back to more nostalgia stuff, and because like, okay, Spider-Man, all that stuff, those are new movies, but I still kind of consider them nostalgia properties, right? Like that's not what I'm talking about. And High School Slumber Party AP, which did you have AP classes in Canada? I'm not sure because
What do they mean? What's AP mean? I
advanced
know AP Bio.
Yeah, so those are with the
Oh,
honors
look, Brian,
classes.
if they had honors classes, I wouldn't know nothing about it because I'm a fucking idiot.
So fair enough, fair enough. So in the new year, we'll be starting a separate feed called High School Slumber Party AP. My co-host
Oh, love
there
it.
is my good friend Iceland Addington, and that'll be for like modern high school films in the last 5 years. Because if you're out there, you're like, I only like the nostalgia stuff. They don't make anything good these days. There is something new for you that you'd like. Ryan, you enjoyed Metal Lords this year, right? Was it the name?
Yes, I did. I love metal. I really, really, really liked Metal Lords. It surprised me. It just there's a sweetness to it. It's a little old school, and a lot of hardcore metalheads would be like, "Yeah, that's not my experience." But I'm just like, "Yeah, it is. Shut up." Add some cigarettes in there, and yeah, it is. No, I like that one a lot. Yeah.
And I do because I just both Island and I love what modern filmmakers are doing, and there's so many just independent good teen films out there that I don't think enough people are seeing. We're going to try to get more filmmakers on as well for interviews, just so they could tell their story. Because, like I said, it's such a universal story. Yeah, it's different for everybody, but we all had to grow up, right? Like to be here. So that's the goal for 2023. We're going to really kick the nostalgia into high gear on the High School Slumber Party feed, and then check out and subscribe when it debuts in 2023, the High School Slumber Party AP feed for newer stuff. We'll also move some modern films onto that feed, so you'll have some homework, as I like to say, to catch up with that. But really excited for 2023 and the direction of the show. Kind of took 2022 to be pensive and think about what I wanted to do because it was going in all different directions, and now kind of have an idea for what we want to do there. So definitely subscribe and listen, and hit me up on social media if you have any suggestions for things or even a suggestion for a guest. Ryan, that's what you did. Once you heard about me from Charlie, you hit me up and we became friends, and it's been awesome. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Charlie, from Angus, Star of Angus. And if anyone hasn't seen Angus yet, that is a movie that's got so much heart and so much bravery that almost had so much more heart and so much more bravery. Like, oh my God, when you look like what they shot and what didn't make the film, it's mind blowing. It seems like if you're ever going to release the Ultimate Angus cut, I don't think that footage exists anymore. But if you ever were, 2023 is the year to do it, because it seems like the entire world is catching up to what Angus attempted to do almost 30 years ago.
And so many people ask me about that episode and that film, and I'm sure you get the same, Ryan, for the Ryan Stick Show. So yeah, definitely check out the Angus episode and check out all the episodes that Ryan has been on, and check out whatever episode you want, really.
Excellent. All right, Brian, thanks so much for coming by. Stick around after I give the end off, because I want to say Merry Christmas properly when we're off the air. But everybody out there, I love this podcast so much. It makes me happy. Scroll back in the feed. They have so many. Brian has so many episodes and so much heart's put into it. No episode sucks. And Goofy movie tattoos were done. So many things.
Very true.
So many things happen on the show. And make sure you check out our buddy Matt Kelly's podcast, Christmas 365, which is killing it right now. And it's always been killing it, but it's Christmas time. And if you want to hear them talk about Garfield and a bunch of other things, that show is a total love letter to Christmas, and I never miss it. So thank you very much for watching, everybody. This has been You, Me, and YTV with my special guest host, Brian the Guest Rodriguez. And High School Slumber Party. Check it out. I promise you, it's rad. So awesome. Have a good one, everybody. See you soon. And keep it Canadian. All right, bye.